As you're coming in, if you want to put your name and location in the chat, that would be wonderful. I'm Louise Comeau. I'm your chair for this evening, and my first time, so be kind with this group.
If folks could put their name, their place of residence behind their name, that would be helpful. And you can do that just by clicking on your picture and renaming, or there's 3 dots on the right-hand side and it says rename at the bottom. You can just put in your location. That would be great.
You can see that I just did that. Okay, we're up to 42 folks, which is wonderful. I'll give it another minute, and we've got a very, very full agenda and lots of things we know you're all going to want to talk about. So we'll move that along very quickly. As soon as it hits 7:32, I'll get going.
If it doesn't work to rename yourself on the picture, you can rename yourself by clicking on your name and participants.
Perfect. Great instructions for everybody. Also, I'm just going to click now and put the agenda, if you're so inclined to follow along. There's no need to worry about it, but if you wanted to see the agenda and follow along, I've just put the link to the agenda. It was also included today in the email from Rolly, inviting you and reminding you about this meeting. So we're now at 7:32 and we're at 48 participants, which is fabulous. Just reminding folks to please keep yourself on mute if you are not speaking. That will help us with background noise and so on. We are recording. The recording will be sent out after the meeting, so you'll always receive that. As I've mentioned, identify yourself if you'd like to. Introduce yourself in the chat. Questions can also go there. Dave Smith will be monitoring those for us and sharing those as we need to respond. We will go through a whole series of updates and then have the after chat for a few minutes if folks are interested in participating in that. And so with that welcome in mind, I'd like to invite, if folks are okay with me to begin. I don't see any hands up and concerns. I won't be able to see you all, so try to use your react button so that your hand is up so I can see it, or someone will point it out to me if I can't see you. At this time, I'd like to welcome Paul Strome and invite him to provide the land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Louise. I really appreciate it. It's interesting how our treaty, our acknowledgements of our treaty are basically that they outline various rights, including the right to hunt, fish, and trap on certain lands, as well as the right to certain amounts of land and annuities. Anyway, the Peace and Friendship Treaties were a series of agreements signed between the British Crown and the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy in Atlantic Canada between 1725 and 1779 to establish peaceful relations and facilitate trade, guaranteeing certain rights and recognizing existing land use and treaty rights. Anyway, I think that it's really important to realize, that these agreements have, been in place for, hundreds of years. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody acknowledging them and doing the best we can with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I wanted just to I was just reflecting on our own efforts here in New Brunswick with our Indigenous neighbors and the work that we're trying to do to have them participate in our April 22nd event, including a talking circle. And maybe at some point we can talk about some of the work we're all doing with our Indigenous neighbors and how we're collaborating on our April 22nd and other events. But for today, we'll move quickly to the discussion of resources from the national team. Rolly's going to quickly share his screen. He's going to talk to you about the events page and how to get yourself on that before we move to Dave Smith giving us a few updates and then a discussion of the documentary. And so, Rolly, if you could share your screen and he's turning away. Share your screen and give us that events page update.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Louise.
Okay.
Just going to share the screen. And that will, you should be seeing the, let me get rid of some of these things. You should be seeing the website.
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, very quickly, this is, I'm sure probably all of you have been to the website repeatedly, so you know what it looks like now. Our intention today was to have the invitation to the April 3rd webinar up and running, but all we have right now is what's been there for the last few weeks. Watch the trailer. As of tomorrow, this will be moved up, and it'll be an invitation to register for the April 3rd webinar. And if some of you haven't been to this before, when you click on this here, you see all more information, of course, about the Later Is Too Late film. This is the up-to-date banner, and it's that was just put up today. So that will be, and you can watch the trailer here if you click on here. And also there's more description, the synopsis about the film itself, and more information about Nancy Nickel, the producer of the film. So this, just to go back, will be updated tomorrow. And shortly after that, we're going to have another banner that will feature April Earth Week or Earth Day that Seniors for Climate groups are working on. And just to scroll very quickly, then we have the messaging for the year, the problem, the solutions, the bold action. So that's the messaging for 2025. Our plans for 2025. We have a section here where folks can get involved. They can join a group. That takes you to the map and so on. As I said, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but this is where you can refer friends or neighbors or interested people interested in joining us. There are different things that they can do here, including signing the pledge. And we keep this up to date, whatever some of our sponsors are involved with. We use these as action points. And one, for example, the most recent one we added yesterday was Equal Justice, telling party or asking party leaders to put climate-aligned financial principles in their platforms. So you can click here and take action. And down here we have, photos and from our successful event last year, October 1, 2024, and more of the same down here. But what I really want to spend some time on today is now we have an events page. And so that allows you not only, as you will recall last year, each event in the 76 locations or action is on the map. We still have the map this year with a very short description of what each event is all about. But you can also, if you wish, give us an image and a description of your event, maybe a little bit longer than you normally would give for the map. And what we've started to do as of yesterday is we're showing 3 events. There's the one in Ottawa. This is an event or an action that is, I think it's in Cape Breton. And this one here, we've used the generic logo or banner. And I believe this one is in Alberta. So when you click on one of these, for example, let's take the Alberta one, it takes you to more information. And this is information that can be changed or added to if you wish to, as you get closer to the event and you wish to add, I don't know, email addresses or contact names or phone numbers if you wish. So this is a sort of a new feature that we've added. And when we do the email, which follows, for example, every organizer's meeting, we will include again a reminder and maybe just a very short list of the things we need in order to do this for you. I know there are a couple of you who are getting ready to send us information, so we'll keep adding to this as the weeks go on.
Thanks.
That's all, that would be all, Louise.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rolly. Just a couple of things, just in case you didn't notice it in the chat, because I totally agree with this comment. Those of us who need larger type, just to share with folks that what you're seeing on the screen is a bit of a compressed view of the website. When you're on your computer, it'll look a little
Yeah.
bit bigger. But I think it is important for us to think about that. I often ask my own colleagues if I can have things in not 10 point font, but at least 12. And so just sharing that maybe as a bit of feedback for us to think about that we do need, but it is compressed, folks, just because we're
Well,
showing
yeah,
it.
because it's on my screen here. yes.
Exactly right. Okay. If there are any questions about that, if you wanted to quickly pop in, otherwise I will move to Dave Smith to talk about webinar follow-up and workshops before we move into documentary update. We're good? Okay, so get your events thing and your material in and we'll get it up on the website.
Avril Torrance had a hand up.
Okay, Avril.
Thanks, Louise. I'm just asking perhaps ignorant question, but can you just rehearse for everyone on the call how one actually gets an event onto the website?
So I
Sure.
think we just send it to the admin, right? The text,
Yeah,
what you want. So you send an image and I'll read out the email now, but also we'll put it in the chat and I'll repeat it at the end. So you send an image of your event and the write-up of your event and send that to admin@seniorsforclimate.org. And we'll put that into the chat for you.
And that will be in the follow-up email to this meeting this evening.
Okay. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Louise. So for the webinar follow-up, the March 5th Seniors for Climate Update webinar was well received based on comments in the chat. 680 people registered for the webinar and 278 attended. So that is pretty typical. About half the people who register attend, and it's probably because they want to get a copy of the video when it's released. And of those 278 that attended, 80 people stayed for the after chat, which is pretty phenomenal. It was a good discussion. People have asked for Dr. Millie Roy's slide deck on the health costs of climate change. And that will be available. I believe there's a note going out in the next day or so. And that will tell you how to get the slide deck. The recording is already on our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to go to Seniors for Climate YouTube, the recording of the webinar is already there. Yeah, so that's the webinar follow-up. Does anybody have any questions on that? Dr. Millie Roy's presentation was very popular. And as I said, we'll be sending out links to her slide deck, and it is already on YouTube. So if you want to catch it, that's a good place to do it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the workshops now. And pardon me. So the top three that organizers selected, and I think it was back in January when it was done. So the first one was social media, and Hannah Thibodeau will be doing that on March the 24th. The building community workshop is going to be done post Earth Day, and that can be a very significant amount of time, evidently. And so the one that we're having some difficulty with is the election preparation. And I just wanted to take a moment here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see everyone's hands, but we are wondering whether you would like to go ahead with a workshop, or the alternative is that we will provide you with a list of election do's and don'ts, as well as question for candidates.
if I could just maybe set some context in the
Sure.
item under federal election, we're going to talk about what we've learned about issues around the election, third-party registrations, and what the decision of Seniors for Climate has been. We will talk about providing some resources there. Maybe we should combine these two, Dave, so that we can see whether or not,
Okay.
given that update from Ricky, whether or not people feel they will be in good hands with the information we provide, or whether we should
Okay.
also include a workshop. Would that be okay, just for
Sure.
efficiency? Okay, great.
And then, so those are the top 3 workshops. The others, so people asked for a session on reclimate. And as it turns out, on March the 20th at noon Eastern Standard Time, Louise, our host here tonight, and Jim Stanford will be making a presentation on a new report. And so we are thinking that that is what we will offer for the reclimate. So there will be links to the 5 Canadas and descriptions of the 5 Canadas in that presentation. That is a key thing that I think comes out of reclimate. But we will be, you may have received it already, but on, as I said, March the 20th at noon Eastern Standard Time, there will be a presentation on reclimate. The Google Drive, Google Docs, and Google Sheets. So what we've done, what Eric has done really, is pulled together some videos on using Google Drive, using Google Docs, and using Google Sheets. He is going to be sending those out to everyone here, all the organizers. And if you are interested, you can go through the various videos and learn that. But we will be on March the 27th having a session where we will answer questions. So if you went through the videos and there's something that's still your question, how it's done, come to the March the 27th session and we'll be able to answer your questions there. Okay. The last one was street theater. And so we're very fortunate to have some people who are putting together a session on street theater. We will be announcing a date for that shortly, but as it is right now, we will be having that session coming up. Does anybody have any questions on the workshops? I'm not seeing any hands raised, so.
Good. We can
We
move
will be sending out a list of the workshops for people, so you can see that.
Okay,
I see Nancy. Nancy has her hand raised.
and Pat.
And Pat, yeah.
I missed the workshop on social media because I had a conflict. Would you be running it again, or is the video?
Yes. The social media workshop is going to be run on March the 24th.
Now,
Pat, does that answer your question, Nancy?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Pat?
these workshops are not just restricted to organizers, are they? Can other folks on
Yeah.
various
So,
committees come?
yeah, so members of the national team in particular asked for a session on Google Drive, Google Docs, and Google Sheets. And so they will also be asked if they would like to go to that.
No, I was just thinking that people outside of this particular group might, like our local committees, some of them might like to go to the social media thing. Is
Yeah,
that a possibility? Is that
I
allowed?
think as long as they're organizers, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Are we
Back to you,
good?
Louise.
Okay, actually, we're back to you on documentary, you and Nancy.
Oh, okay.
And that's your final item before we move into the federal election.
Okay, so at last count, we had 20 locations that have signed up for screenings. There have been a couple of problems with people doing the screening, And so that's why we do advise doing a practice ahead of your actual screening, just to make sure if problems do arise, you can get them resolved. We have the April 3rd screening, and that is going to be for our email subscribers, our endorsing organizations, and sponsors. And kind of going back to the last point about whether other organizers are going to be included in the workshops, we found out that a lot of the people that are, well, not a lot, some of the people that are organizers are not on our email subscriber list. And so they miss out on stuff that we send out. So if you do have people on your organizer list, would you ask them to please subscribe to our email list? And that way you're going to get an invitation to the April 3rd screening if you subscribe. So there is a plug and play package that will be available for locations to use either as a promotion to their Earth Day event or as part of the actual Earth Day event. And the plug and play will include a film and a discussion guide. Nancy is working on a 20-minute version of the film, and that's expected to be available in late March. She may have something further to say on that. And the week of April the 7th, the film will be made publicly available on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
So, Nancy, I think you have some remarks. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're going into a federal election. This film is, I think, very timely, and we should be maximizing the use of it to get it out into the mainstream and public during the election period. So I've been working very hard to reach out to cable, and there is uptake from Cogeco, CHCO, and Rogers. So in New Brunswick, they are planning to do a screening. I don't have dates yet. In Kingston and in London, they're planning to do screenings through Cogeco. And the programmer on Vancouver Island has been really, really supportive. So they are planning to do a screening there, which is to 2 stations on Vancouver Island. But he is also going to send the film to all the Rogers stations across Canada. Also, the local programmer for Cogeco in Kingston said that he would do the same for Cogeco. So for Rogers, I've had to do a new version to remove Elizabeth May.
Yes. I wonder.
Yes, because they cannot broadcast a film with a candidate who is running in the election. So obviously, it's really important if we can get this film out during the election period and put this film before the public to think about the climate crisis during the election period. That would be the most effective use that we could hope for this film. So there is a new version without Elizabeth May, and there is a new version without Greta Thunberg and Elizabeth May. And the reason for that is because I still have not gotten written permission to use the cut with Greta Thunberg. It's fine for us to show the uncut original director's cut, if you like, of the film in local screenings. But when we put it up on YouTube, I think it should be the version without Greta. I don't know if Seniors for Climate or other climate groups are bound by the same thing that a broadcaster is. But in any case, all 3 versions are now available. Something just happened to my screen.
Yeah, me too. What's going on?
Somebody's sharing their screen, I think.
We're back. Okay.
All 3 versions of the film are available now. And we've got a programmer from Rogers Cable on board with this project. So I think next week, give him some time to work. Next week, if you have a local Rogers station, reach out to them and ask
Okay.
them if they will program the film. And hopefully by that time, they will have received a message from Paul on Vancouver Island about the film. The new version is 58 minutes long. It's perfect for their hour-long program. So that's one point. The second point that I want to raise with, I talked with Rolly earlier on a SCAN meeting about this. Originally, we'd planned to not make the film public and on YouTube until after the April 3rd Seniors with Climate Listserv screening. I'd like to recommend that Seniors with Climate send it out to other environmental and climate groups before that date, because we could very well be into an election period in, maybe 10 days from now or so, possible election date, April 28th or May 5th, and it'll be a short election period. So I think we should try and give other climate groups the opportunity to also use this film during the election period. We can still go ahead with the April 3rd plans as planned. Or even, send it out to other environmental groups and say, we are planning this meeting, and could you hold off on making it public until April 3rd? But give them the opportunity of having the film a little bit sooner. So, because it takes organizations time to, put these things in place. So that's my thoughts on that. Oh, and yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it. There's a broadcast version and the original version.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. On this question of sharing it, still having our April 3rd, I think we're about to start a conversation on election issues. Nancy, it's absolutely critical that there be nothing that perceived as partisan in the film. Otherwise, we will be it's just more risky, challenging. Is there anything folks want to ask Nancy or Dave about this? I'm just quickly looking through. I don't see any hands up. And if not, we'll assume that that's the plan we're running with. Is that all right with everybody? Yeah? Okay. We're going to move into, I hope, an interesting conversation about election issues. We're going to do it in 3 parts. Ricky Stewart's going to start by giving us a bit of an overview of the results of the investigation. And let me just say, maybe 50 conversations we've all had about the election and what the right things to do are and how to properly prepare. And I just want to set this up by saying this is a super important conversation. As organizers, we really have to do certain things in the election, and Ricky's going to take us through that a little bit. It doesn't interfere with what we want to do, but there's just certain things we can do that keep us in a good space. So we'll start with Ricky's overview, and then just have a quick little update on some of the potential collaborations with groups, and Rolly and Nick will talk about Council of Canadians and 350.org. But then we're going to talk about the third part is election focus and messaging. So Ricky, if that's an okay introduction, perhaps I hand it over to you. Just have to unmute you.
Okay, so thanks, Louise. Louise and I attended 2 legal workshops offered through the Sustainability Network on the Canada Elections Act and what you need to do if you want to register as a third-party intervener, or how you can avoid registering as a third-party intervener and still be able to do election-related work. So this had been the subject of several conversations at the steering committee and the coordinating committee in Seniors for Climate. And we found the sessions, which were headed up by a lawyer from Vancouver, who specializes in elections law, very, very helpful. And I'm going to take you to the conclusion of Seniors for Climate first, and then explain backwards why that was. So our conclusion was that at the steering committee, we agreed to a motion that said Seniors for Climate is a nonpartisan organization and will not register as a third party in the upcoming election. We did not think it was necessary. All right, so the Third Party Elections Act is meant to keep sort of secret contributions and hidden supporters of elections away by actually requiring them to be transparent about what they're doing. And it applies to 3 kinds of activities that are regulated by the Act. And the first one is not something that will concern us as Seniors for Climate, because it is actually contributing to or working for or advocating for a particular party or candidate. So we cannot, as Seniors for Climate, go and organize a fundraiser for a Green Party candidate, for example. We didn't think that was a problem that applied to us. The second category of regulated activity is for advocacy on issues that are very closely identified with a particular party or candidate. And that one is a little bit more tricky because you never know what's going to be identified with a particular party or candidate in an election. So, for example, an example of something that is no longer relevant would be advocating in favor of keeping the carbon tax, right? Nobody now is advocating for it, but if we had advocated for keeping the carbon tax when it was still an issue, that might have raised some challenges. So the trick under this regulated activity is to frame your activities broadly enough that they are not going to be very closely identified with a particular candidate. So, for example, favoring renewables and cutting fossil fuels is not likely to be identified with a particular candidate. The third category that is regulated is surveys, where either the surveys are not open to every party or where there is a commentary on the results by the organization that did the survey. So, for example, we could say, we asked candidates for their positions on strengthening the building code and publish that, and it would be fine. If we did the same survey and said, and gave them a grade, a report card, if we did a report card, that could be seen as favoring particular parties. So in all of these 3 categories, we feel pretty comfortable that we're not going to be in trouble. And the other thing to know is that if you spend less than $500 on your election-related activities, you don't meet the criterion. So nobody's going to come after us if we spend $100 on coffee for an event. The last thing to know is that this is complaints-based. So someone, probably in a party or close to a party, would have to say, oh, those Seniors for Climate folks are contravening the Elections Act and lodge a complaint. And then there would be an investigation. And in the worst case scenario, there would be a fine. And according to what we checked out yesterday, fairly superficially on the website, the fine would be $1,500. So it's hardly a barrier. As a result, having done all of that work, Seniors for Climate decided that we will not register. We do not need to register. We do advise people to think carefully about how they frame their advocacy on an issue to make it general enough that it's not going to attract the attention of a particular candidate. And we think that our materials generally are pretty well within the nonpartisan camp. The last thing maybe to say is that while most of the act is about paid advertising or paid activities like renting a space or printing a pamphlet or buying time on social media or buying other kinds of advertising, it also applies to volunteer contributions for which people are normally get paid. So I'm a retired person who stopped doing my paid work several years ago. So it doesn't apply to me. But I know that some of us are still getting paid for our particular skills, at least at times. And if we then volunteer those for Seniors for Climate, that they might count toward the $500 cost. So I'll stop there.
Right.
We will put this out in probably a sheet of do's and don'ts regarding the Election Act.
So, and that would include, just in terms of resources before we open it up to your questions. So the recording and the transcript from the 2 webinars. We've also put together a list of 10 questions to ask the candidates. Based on what we've learned, a list of basic do's and don'ts that should keep us all in good stead. So those will all go out to you shortly. And so one of the questions, as we are answering your questions that we're asking you, is, would that, in your opinion, be enough? Or back to Dave's initial question, or would you also like to have a special session where this is discussed a little bit further with you? So I see that Bonnie has her hand up, and if you want to ask your question, and we'll do what we can to answer.
Hi, I'm wondering, is there a problem if the organizer, just under their own name, not under Seniors for Climate, is actively working for one of the campaigns?
I'm looking at Ricky, so I don't want to put it all in your shoulders. I'm happy to answer questions, but nod at me if you want me to do it.
Okay. No, I think any individual is free to do whatever they like. The question then becomes, how does that fit in with their Seniors for Climate work? And you could either take a sabbatical or ask if there's any contradiction when you want to do something for Seniors for Climate that's also related to your partisan work. So I think if you don't identify, it is fine, but I think it would be important to be careful. I don't know whether
don't do anything under the Seniors for Climate banner, either logo, material in any way, if it is supporting an individual candidate. It doesn't mean you can't participate in the election and do the call as we are going to be doing during the election, but don't. But do that in a completely nonpartisan way. So if you're sending out surveys, it goes to all parties. If you're wanting to talk about the issues, it's issues that all parties could respond to. Like, you need to be seen to not be partisan, and that is not hard to do. if you feel that your work or your values require you to be partisan, then you're just not doing anything under the Seniors for Climate banner.
Well, in my case, that might mean me stepping down as the organizer because I'm from a small group, and even if I don't say it's Seniors for Climate, they go, "Oh, it's Bonnie Brownstein." So, yeah.
Yeah, you might want to, I mean, you know, if you're not printing anything or emails with the Seniors for Climate logo, or, you know, I think it can be kept distinct, but we have the same issues, let me tell you, in New Brunswick. But those folks are not doing anything under the Seniors for Climate banner. So we should be okay. I see Nancy and Nick, if you're okay, Bonnie, if we move on. And then if there are some other questions, I'm going to try to keep us on time, but we do have a good another 10 minutes on this topic. Nancy.
So on the documentary, then the documentary, I think, is nonpartisan. Even frankly, with the inclusion of Elizabeth May, because she's not speaking as a member of her party, she's speaking actually as a grandmother. But because she is identified as a member and is running the election, we have the option to just show the one without Elizabeth May, which would be the safer option. My question is basically, you know, 350 Canada is launching a campaign that really targets Poilievre. So can we be specific about criticizing the policies and history of Poilievre? Otherwise, quite frankly, I feel quite disarmed in this election if I can't criticize.
I'm looking at Ricky. So
I think you could criticize the policies without criticizing the party. That would be my advice.
and your frustration, Nancy, is the same frustration that every group I know has had and feels when elections are called, because we're neutered. Except, you know, there is room to maneuver. There's certainly room to maneuver. Nobody's, our purpose is clear as a nonprofit, and we are working within our purposes, and that is perfectly legit within the Elections Act. But
why is it that the 350 Canada then can launch a campaign that specifically
they're going to register?
Oh, they've
I'm
had
sure. I'm sure.
I see. Okay, if you have third party status, then you can say these
do
things.
whatever you want. But
I may be working with them then.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Scan is taking third party registration.
Yeah, the reporting requirements for third party status are pretty onerous. So it's really not within Seniors for Climate's capacity.
I understand.
To do that. Okay, we've got Nick, Rolly, Joan, and Lois, and then maybe we'll try to move to the next part of this and see if we can maybe roll some of this conversation into that. Nick.
I just wanted to emphasize to Bonnie's question, if I understood it correctly, even if you're identified as a person with Seniors for Climate, as long as you're not acting in the capacity of Seniors for Climate, there's no problem. And when you participate in somebody else's campaign, they register and they have to deal with all the issues that may arise. So it's not a problem to be an organizer at the same time as being active in somebody else's campaign. It's just you can't wear your Seniors for Climate t-shirt when you're doing it.
Basically. Exactly. Rolly?
I was just going to say, I'm going to skip this. I'm getting interference.
Okay. Joan.
Yeah, I wondered if there is a difference since the Supreme Court found Doug Ford's Elections Act restricting third parties unconstitutional. Has that affected this at all?
The lawyer didn't comment on that, but they're different acts.
Okay, well, but it just came down last Friday, so I'm wondering.
Yeah, that was.
It does make a difference. Yeah, thank you.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, we'll check. Lois.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if any of the six sponsoring organization of Seniors for Climate Project have registered. One
Scan-
question. Do you know, Ricky?
I understand Scan, I just heard somebody say that Scan is going to register. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Yes, SCAN will be registering. We'll have a separate campaign, but of course we'll be supporting Seniors for Climate as well.
The second thing I'd like to say is that Ricky, you're stressing framing of questions around issues. I wonder if there might be some guidance put out to people. Maybe those 10 questions could be rejigged actually to be examples of how people can be smart in their framing of questions around issues to the candidates. Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you can look at the, if you, I don't know exactly how, but Seniors for Climate will make available the transcripts and the recordings of the 2 legal sessions, and especially the first one. If you look at that towards the end, the lawyer goes through several examples where she asked us, do you think this is acceptable under the act, acceptable framing under the act or not? So that you'll find that, I think, very helpful as well.
Okay, and that's a great suggestion around the 10 questions. I think those questions already are in the correct format, if you will. So we'll kind of set that up. Was there anyone else? I think I haven't missed anyone. Okay. Could Rolly very quickly on 350 and Nick on World Water Day, just speak quickly to that, and then we can move into.
Yeah, I think we've covered the 350.
Okay.
I was on a call last night, and they're going to be taking a very, very anti-Poilievre stance. So anyone acting in that capacity should do so under the 350 banner or scan, because it cannot be done under Seniors for Climate.
Okay. Nick, did you want to say anything about World Water Day? Council of Canadians?
We're registered for that.
Yes, thank you. So we heard John Cartwright, I think it was last meeting, and the Council of Canadians, of course, is doing their working with other groups and organizations, trying to build a coalition, still working on that. The next event that's happening is around World Water Day, which is March 22nd. They're having a webinar on the evening of March the 20th. Maud Barlow will be featured, and they'll be talking about water and the current issues in terms of Canada's right to control its own water, etc. So I'll put the announcement in the chat. It's part of building work with other people, building the kind of alliance that we must build in the next period of time. So I'll put that in the chat right now.
Thanks, Nick. And also just to let folks know that in the agenda, I put the links to all of these things in the agenda for you. So if you missed the chat, you've got the link to this agenda, and the registration link is there for both the March 20th webinar, 350.org, and the other webinars that we've talked about. So let's just spend a few minutes and while I recalibrate and look at our time, we do want to leave a good 30 minutes and we're coming up to that now when I'm just trying to watch through our time for the after chat. So we want to leave 30 minutes. So if I do speed us along, it'll be only for that reason, because I want to keep lots of time for us to talk about our Earth Day plans, which is the point of our calls as well. But we wanted to give folks a chance to talk about how they're perceiving the kind of messaging and engagement that you want to, I guess, pursue for our events, but also in the course of the election. You know, in terms of the website messaging that Rolly shared, we talked about, you know, the problem statement. We've got a solution statement. We've got an action statement. And that solution statement does focus on, you know, our priority being the build out of renewables, a clean energy system, And we all know that in our work, there's always a tension between campaigning for what we want versus campaigning for what we don't want. And there's a lot of stuff going to be put on the table that we don't want. And we're just trying to get a sense of how you're feeling about, you know, that balance between campaigning for what we're for or what we stand for, and being the voice of the voice demanding the build out of the clean energy system, the new energy system, and how you feel the messaging might go for you in this next election. There may be other issues you want to bring to the fore. So why don't we spend maybe, if that's okay, you know, maybe 5-7 minutes on this. If we need more time, we'll do that. But if you have thoughts around the election and messaging, and if not, we'll maybe bring it up during our Earth Day plan discussion. So let's open it up to you, Liba.
Yeah, in Toronto, in Scan Toronto, well, in Scan, we've been thinking about the messaging and trying to find that balance, because we understand that people in the climate movement have been saying we have to talk about what we want, we have to be positive. So you have to find some sort of balance. Because the Council of Canadians has been talking about the Canada we want, that will be a very strong part of our message. But we have to, of course, say that there are problems facing us, in particular Trump's tariffs. So if we figure, if we say that you know, economically this is what's on people's minds, but at the same time we're also paying for the floods and the wildfires and so on. So what the politicians are saying is, well, let's have more pipelines. That's their solution. And then we're thinking, okay, well, we'll tell you our solution. Our solution is that we need to have an east-west grid, and it has to be based on renewable energy and so on. So then the tagline would include, you know, vote for the Canada you want. So that's, you know, some of the ideas that we've been talking about, and we have been writing a paper to our which we have been circulating to our members about the messages that we want to put forward. So that's some of the thinking that we've had.
Super. Anyone, Lois?
Yeah, I've talked to Brian about this. You know, in our work here in Yellowknife, we have very consciously focused on empowering and being aspirational, and not really, you know, certainly making our demands on elected bodies, but not putting all of our eggs in that basket. And, you know, as individuals, as communities, we share in that responsibility. We want leaders that work with us. So, you know, like, there's so much messaging going on about we want you to do, and abdicating our own responsibility and abdicating the responsibility of our community. So I guess I would just throw that out, that I would like to see messaging that requires leaders to engage with us, work with us, empower us, inspire us. Thank you.
Awesome. Renee.
Yeah, thanks. We're, as a matter of obligation, we'll be raising questions around nuclear waste, transportation, burial, and nuclear expansionism. And I'm, you know, looking to see how the other sort of broader initiatives are putting their list together, and whether there's a place for those questions and those issues in that. I also wanted to just sound a note of caution. I'm hearing recurring references to East-West grid, and I'm not sure how everyone's, you know, thinking about that, but we did have East-West grid proposals in the 1990s, and they included large hydro development in northern Manitoba and a large Audubon of transmission corridor through northern Ontario. Neither of those were supported by people in those regions. So I'm not sure where the venue is for a discussion of this growing enthusiasm for an East-West grid. But if it's an East-West electricity grid, there's certainly some hazards in it that we'd like to be able to talk about.
Okay, Pat?
Sorry. One of the things we're doing here is, yes, we want to collaborate with leaders, but we also want to support them in, like, they've all got these targets. They've got all these beautiful targets. We need to support them so that they can know that people are actually in favor of the targets they've already set. And that's where we're coming from here. Because, yeah, and we're hoping that'll work.
NDP. Okay, super. Anybody else want to come in on this part of the conversation? We can talk about it again under the Earth Day activities. I'm sure there may be other aspects that come up. I think in terms of some of the issues that have been raised, we'll get to when our next meeting is, but we'll look at how we want to follow up. Obviously, each of us is doing what we're doing in our own communities, and so you're free, of course, to have issues that are relevant to where you are. But I think there are some common themes here that I'm hearing about in terms of a positive vision of where we want to go as being a kind of a key driver of what we want to do during the election. I think that's a fair summary. Anybody else want to comment right now? Okay. Yes, Anne.
Yeah, Louise, is this the place to raise the point that one of our NB organizing members made this afternoon about the messaging?
Actually, yeah, we're going to do that in the next section. It's coming up for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. We made a point of that for sure. Anything else before we move along? Okay. So there's just one little update before we get into Earth Day plans. And Nick, you're on tap to just talk about the third act and the fall, what's happening in the fall there. Just a quick update on that if you're here. I can't see you right now. Yes, there you are. Okay.
Thank you. So right from the beginning, we've been talking since last October 1st about building unity with other organizations and looking around the world to see what may be coming up and how we can build a broader movement globally. Third Act in the United States, which has more than 70,000 members, is organizing what they call a Sun Day, which will be emphasizing renewable energy and the potential of renewable energy, going into the future. It'll be on September 20th and 21st. They have been putting a lot of work into it and will be making a public announcement shortly about it. And they are saying that it will be a global action, and we're hoping that it will. So we'll be looking at how we can time our event in the fall to coincide with theirs. So build from the Earth Day events, continue to build through to the fall, and hopefully be part of something that's happening around the world at that time.
Okay, super. I know in New Brunswick, we're talking about that September event being a lobby day. So those are good topics for lobbying purposes. Okay, so let's get into the meat of our discussion around Earth Day plans. Dave Smith is going to help carry us through that, including well, I'll let him go through all of the various topics, but we'll also get a bit of a chance to share what's going on, what people are planning to do across the country. We'll provide 3 examples, but we're also hoping that folks will pop in with what they're thinking of doing. And we'll spend the next 30 minutes on that before we wrap up. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Louise. So the first item here is the Earth Day theme, Our Power, Our Planet, the week of April 22nd. Our Power, Our Planet is the International Earth Day theme. And so within Canada, particularly because of some of the things that have come up with recently, we've expanded that a little bit to say, our power, our country, our planet. And the wording that has come up behind those goes like this. So our power is related to clean, affordable power, senior power, democratic people power, and we all have the power we need to protect this amazing earth. Let's use it. Our country, we're committed to resolving historic wrongs and protecting our natural abundance, our water, our diversity, and our Canadian sovereignty for future generations. And last, our planet. There is no planet B. We must be the last generation hooked on oil, gas, and coal so the next generations can thrive in a cleaner and safe world. I'm just going to pause there.
And I think Dave's going to put that in the chat.
I am.
And I just wanted to get Dave's advice here. Do you want to stop at this point and have a chat about those themes, or should we go through the update items and then open it up to the chat themes? How do you want to stop now and open it up a bit, or if folks have comments, this is your chance here, and we'll see.
But why don't we go through the entire thing?
Okay, great.
And then
Thanks.
open it up.
Okay, so we'll get to you shortly. Yeah.
Okay. Pardon me. So the emphasis on growing our numbers, visibility, and reaching out to youth. Some of you may know, or some of you may not know, that I am also the project manager for Seniors for Climate. So project managers are supposed to be calm, watch the numbers, and step in when something needs to be fixed. I'm not calm, though, when I see all the things going on around me. One of the responsibilities of a project manager is to offer hope to people on the project. H-O-P-E, hope. I can tell you that what gives me hope is when I hear the International Energy Agency say that by the end of this decade, the demand for fossil fuels will begin to drop because the switch to renewable energy is inevitable. Not because it's a good thing to do to fight climate change, but because renewables are cheaper. Renewables are cheaper. Another thing that gives me hope is that in 2024, we were the only group that held a national day of action. I was drawn to Seniors for Climate because I could see that only if we had bigger numbers would we have a hope of changing the course of history. That gives me hope. We stood up and said enough, and we're going to do it again and again and again until we stop burning fossil fuels, but we need to build our numbers. So we hope that each of you will have a sign-up sheet for new subscribers at your events this Earth Day, and we'll send it in to us for adding to our email subscriber list. It's not complicated. You just need the name, the person's email address, and their postal code, and some kind of indication that they're authorizing you to add it to our subscriber list. I hope that you bring out the Seniors for Climate flags and banners from October the 1st, and then add in others to make it colorful. I hope that you invite your children and grandchildren, your neighbors and their children, the principals of your school, and all the teachers and all the students. Invite the person who checks you out at the local grocery store. Invite the people from your local rec center, the pharmacist from your drugstore, the local librarians, your postal delivery person. Don't forget the postal delivery person, because we need to build our numbers. So the next item here is the joining in with other local groups. We do have endorsements with For Our Kids and Music Declares Emergency Canada and Environmental Defence. We have a list of the Council of Canadian locations, and we hope that you will engage them. So if you want to know whether your location has a matching group with For Our Kids, Environmental Defence, or the Council of Canadians, once again, if you send in a note to admin at Seniors for Climate and ask, we'll respond to you. We have a list of almost 600 organizations, most of them national and provincial or territorial, from across the country that we are working on to promote us. 600. We want you to approach your local groups. So larger communities have more to choose from, but even smaller population communities have Kiwanis, Kinsmen, Lions, Legion, 4-H, and on and on. So reach out there and try to engage those local groups. because we got to build our numbers. The videographers and photographers for your event, we hope that you're going to identify someone to take pictures or short videos, and then post them to either your own social media or use the hashtag Senior for Climate or hashtag Later is Too Late in the post. The October the 1st event gave us about 900 photos, and we used those over 2 months in our social media to keep on promoting Seniors for Climate. It's a wonderful resource to have, so please get people, assign someone to specifically take photos to be included. The media plan, we will make a draft press release available to you for use in your location. We're also going to be working at getting some type of national media coverage too. If you draw up a list of your local newspapers, radio stations, TV stations, and let them know what you're planning on doing, give them something dramatic, colorful, and full of movement to cover. Like a row of raging grannies singing a naughty song. That'll get some attention. So that's the different sections that I wanted to cover, Louise.
Okay, that's super. Why don't we open it up for a chat about any of those items for a few minutes before we provide some examples and open it up for folks to share what they're planning to do. Anne, why don't I just put you back on the spot? And I think I had one also that had a hand up earlier. Strong.
Me, Louise?
Yes, if you'd like to comment on anything, the messaging you were going to talk about.
Yes, thank you. And please jump in, Louise, if I don't get this correct, or Muriel, because you were there too. But at our meeting earlier today, one of our group members made the point that he was not comfortable with the inclusion of our country in the Our Power, Our Planet message. He felt that that could be perceived as perhaps too nationalistic and could be alienating to some folks. So does that capture it, Louise, or is there anything you need to add?
Yeah. Only thing I would add is when I raised it with our team, this is not the first time it's come up, and I don't know if it's come up for others, and how I think one of the solutions Pat was mentioning for Winnipeg was they just took out our country. I think if I recall, you just stuck with the two. I mean, there's obviously flexibility in the messaging and how we want to do it. Nick, thanks for coming in on that.
Okay, so I mean, I think there's a better option, which is to keep it. And you know, why do we mention our country? First of all, because we can't do what we have to do if we come under U.S. domination. It's going to be much, much harder on the one hand, and that's exactly what the agenda is today. And on the other hand, we have to define what we want as a country, and that means addressing issues like Indigenous rights, it means addressing the social justice issues, and we can't talk about addressing those issues if we don't say that the country has to do it. So it's important to bring that in at this time, I would argue, because it's part of the clear politics of the land at the moment. It's on everybody's mind, and we do have to define which way are we going when we're going to address these issues. We have to talk, I would suggest. I mean, obviously people can decide what they want to do, but I think it's an important concept. It's not about defending Canada as the greatest country on earth, in my opinion, in my mind. It's about saying we have to maintain our ability to protect what we have and fight for what we need to have, which is a different kind of Canada, the kind of Canada we want, that's free of emissions and addresses the other issues I mentioned.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Jamie.
Yeah, I would agree entirely with Nick. If you eliminate the our country, you're operating in a complete political vacuum, given what the tone of the next 40 days is going to be. So that, I think that would be a profound mistake.
Okay, thank you. Nancy?
Okay, if you're going to use that, then I think there's a problem with the statement because it says we're committed to resolving historical wrongs. Well, the problem is that they're not just historical. I mean, there's an ongoing battle going on about a pipeline and, it's not historical. So I would rewrite that to say we are committed to Indigenous rights and social justice. That's the kind of Canada that we support. And I think it needs to be said. If we're going to say that we put our country, then let's say what we support.
Okay, thank you. I think, Jamie, maybe your hand is up from before? Yeah, okay. So Joan. Oh, you're just on mute.
I have a problem with our country too, because in fact, for many of the Indigenous nations in this country, in Canada, what we call Canada, they're in treaty with us. They don't consider themselves necessarily to be part of this country. We have a treaty relationship with the Wet'suwet'en, for example. We have a treaty relationship with Treaty 9. And so I think there's a real problem with that. And we've, when we've been talking about what we were going to do here and talking with the Algonquins that we're working with, we were operating before you put our country in there. And the agreement we've got over the name of the event is Our Power, Our Planet, working together for future generations. And I don't see going back to them and saying, now we want to stick in our country. I think it might be a deal breaker.
Yeah. Okay. So good feedback. Everybody has the flexibility to choose which path, I think. I'm just looking at Nick and Pat and others just to guide me here. I don't think we're going to say yes or no to people in terms of which way they want to go. Nick, Rolly, if you're here, maybe.
Yeah, well, certainly the intent is to Joan's point. The intent is not to use our country that way. Maybe we should look at the wording or not. We have to consider that. But certainly that's not the intent. And I appreciate the point.
Yeah.
But we have to talk about that and see what we can come up with.
Okay, so we'll take this back. So great feedback. We'll take it back. There's Rolly, and that maybe be the final comment on that, but it'll go back to the coordinating and steering committees just to assure you that they will, Rolly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. As one of the authors, Christine and I added that in there, but it was in the context that Nick just explained. Because of the political context we find ourselves in, we kind of wanted to bring that up, but maybe there's a better way of doing it. We'll look at it.
Okay, super. All right. Let's talk a little bit about what our plans are, some of the fun stuff. Pat, why don't you talk about what's cooking in Winnipeg?
Okay. I even wrote something out. Actually, in January, the steering committee that pulled together the October 1st event for Seniors for Climate met to discuss what we wanted to do in 25. And it was decided to invite other climate groups, because Winnipeg has a number of other climate groups, to help us plan something for Earth Week and for the fall. Now, at a joint meeting, we had a number of groups that liked the idea and greeted it with lots of enthusiasm. And since then, we've been having weekly meetings and been joined by others for a total of 12 groups now involved. We've decided on October 22nd to be at the legislative grounds so that we can include school groups. The schools have responded very positively. And we're actually looking at hope we can get some free transit so students can get down to the ledge from their schools. The celebration and rally, we wanted to include both, include live music and entertainment, student-led chants and dancing. And we're also purchasing a giant globe that we'll be passing through the group to encourage mingling and telling of stories. Now, an astonishing thing was pointed out to me by Ingebert, who's one of our volunteers on the National Outreach Committee. At a meeting mid-February, the Earth Day Committee, that's planning the Earth Day event, unanimously decided that Seniors for Climate would be the lead for this year's events. And I'm sure this is happening elsewhere as well. But a group that didn't exist a year ago is now being recognized as a leader in climate advocacy. As Dave was saying, there's hope. Now, this is really, you know, it's hard when you're busy organizing to see the forest. But, you know, we're being recognized now as seniors who is pulling things together for the country. And I think that's really positive. Okay.
Super. Nick, do you want to talk about what's happening in Toronto?
Sure. Thank you. So we had a very successful event on October 1st. We had about 500 people in total, 500 who marched, about 400 who ended up in the church for a rally. And we said then we wanted to keep building, and we have been. It's taken a bit of work to get ourselves organized. As other people, we are also facing all the complexity of things that are changing in the world around us, and people are busy with many things, and it's starting to get organized and clear now and really building momentum. So what we decided to do was, first of all, to make the connection with economic insecurity, with the issues that people face in their daily lives that are so difficult for them and that you know occupies their concerns. And we also recognized in more recent times the relation of that to being able to defend the ability or the sovereignty, the ability to actually do something about it. So we're making the connection between those. In addressing the economic insecurity, typically things are done in the center of the city. We're moving to the east. We're in the areas of the city where there are people who have less income and making connections there. So we're booking, and we hope to get Allen Gardens, which is a major park. There's an encampment in that park, and it's occupied by Indigenous people. We've had a first contact with them and have got their acceptance and agreement that we can organize the event there. And of course, we'll be approaching them to open the event. And we're approaching other organizations who work around tenants' rights, who work around working with people who are racialized, people who work in other community issues, food banks, etc., and building support. And similar, in one similar sense to what Pat said, the way we organized last fall means that we have some credibility, and we're getting responses because of that from other organizations, and that's starting to build as well. And there's a whole list of those. So it'll be a two-part event. The first part will be an hour or so, which we'll have tabling, things for kids and different ways that people exchange information, and we hope to have a large number of social justice environmental groups involved in that. And then we'll move to a rally where we'll talk about the issues of the day and where we're going from here in terms of building. So it's going well. A lot of work to be done yet. Difficult time because of all the other things that are happening. Hard to say how that's going to affect where we land and where it ends up. But it'll be, in our opinion, an important event in terms of the election that's taking place to put climate on the agenda and link it in people's minds to the other issues they're concerned about.
Awesome. So I'll describe a little bit of what's going or what we think's going to happen in New Brunswick. In October, we had events in 5 locations, each of them being quite distinct. New Fredericton gathered at the legislature. We went to City Hall and where the mayor had a proclamation. We had a viewing of a webinar that we coordinated on the health effects of climate change on seniors that was shown in St. John, and there was a discussion after that, or Quispamsis. Muriel did amazing things in a gathering of a large crowd in St. Andrews. Moncton joined us in Fredericton. So this time around, what we've decided to do, and several of our teammates are on the call. Muriel Jarvis is here and Ann McAllister. I think Meredith Fisher's here. We also have Leslie Chandler and Penny Mott, Karen Rogers and Logan Atkinson. And we've basically decided to combine all of the things we might have done in our individual communities to concentrate on a legislative action in Fredericton. So I'll go through some of the things that we've already got cooking in terms of getting the details settled. We've already submitted and had approved our proclamation that will be read at Fredericton City Council on April 14th. We're now trying to secure the mayor to read the proclamation out loud to us outside of City Hall on April 22nd. And the goal is to have a very large crowd. I mean, if you think Dave was trying to get bigger numbers, we had about 150 people at the legislature, and this time we're hoping for 1,000. So there's big dreams going on here in terms of numbers. We want to, depending on whether we get the permit or not, we want to walk or march with our signs from City Hall to the legislature. And from noon until 2, there will be events there, including our Raging Grannies will be there. The Raging Grannies from St. Andrews will come up. We'll have other musicians speaking, but we're also hoping to have more partners this year that will have tables on the legislative lawn where people can meet other groups from New Brunswick who are working on climate change and have messages they want to share and conversations they want to have. One of the exciting elements is once we've gone through, your standard legislative gathering thing and people are talking and we're taking video and all that good stuff, we want to break in that second hour, not just for the conversation on the lawn, but to break into talking circles. And so we have at least one already agreed that will be led by one of our Indigenous leaders. We're looking for indoor space nearby, potentially in the art gallery for that. And if there's a demand for more, we may try to do more talking circles, maybe even on the lawn, depending on the weather and so on. Details are in flux, as you all know. And then in terms of the documentary, what everyone is working on is using that obviously to rally folks. I mean, Muriel was talking today about busing people from St. Andrew to Fredericton, and she's already booked a venue to show the documentary. Another of our teammates has booked a venue, the Cineplex, to show the documentary. And so each of us will be using the documentary in our respective locations to rally interest and so on. We're really ramping up our emails to everyone we've created posters, a save the date series of posters in English and French. And so we're happy to make those available to you if you're interested in having that. And if anyone wants to pop in and anything I forgot from the New Brunswick gang, do so. And in the meantime, I'll hand it over to Donna Fay.
Oh, good. Hi. Well, it's a question that I have. I put it in the chat, but I thought I'm just going to ask. We've already booked something for October the 4th for the fall event, but then I saw somewhere somebody's using September the 27th, that Saturday. What are most people doing? Are they having their October event ahead of the October the 1st date or after on the 4th?
Good question. Okay, Nick just opened the door on that, I think, a little bit around this third act opportunity.
Yeah, so we've been really since October 1st last year looking at how we can link up with others. And that the potential day seems to be that weekend of the 20th and 21st of September. So that's likely where we're looking. Well, it's what we're looking at. I think, that's the question. Can we be part of something bigger globally? So to answer the question, what may be the date?
Okay, great. And then just to remind you, we're going to do a poll. We want to get a sense of where you are at and how you're feeling about where you're at. And just while we're going to set that poll up, Eric is going to set the poll up, and then maybe that will allow us to have a bit more conversation. I see we're running out of time. But to remind you that we are going to offer, if you're feeling like you're struggling, there is the documentary plug and play. So these 5 options are designed to give us a sense of, planning is really advanced, we're ready to go. Planning's in the early stages, but we'll be ready. planning has not started. We will start soon. 4, we plan to use the documentary Plug and Play. And 5, we are not planning an Earth Day, Earth Week event. If you want to do those and make your selection, I'll pick one. And submit that, then Eric will give us a sense of the results.
Yeah, so we're still building up the results. I'm not going to end it yet for a minute or two because we're looking at about half of people who have completed it.
Yep. Let's give everybody a bit of time.
While we're waiting, Nick, can you just say that date again? Did you say September 21st?
So they're doing 2 days, 20 and 21. It's a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And the play is Sun Day, which is, energy from the sun. So that, but they picked 2 days for reasons I don't quite know.
And that was the third act, Seniors Climate Group out of the States?
Yes, and they say it's going to be global, and I know they have a lot of connections globally. So we'll be obviously looking at that, whether that's in fact the case.
And it is the fall equinox in case.
Oh, right.
So that's the tie. That's why the choice of that date.
Okay. Okay.
So it looks like we're over 3/4. Oh, sorry to interrupt, Rolly. I was just going to say, it looks like we're at 3/4 of people have responded. I can end it, and there should be an option to make it visible to everyone.
Folks want another, oh, there we are. Okay.
My apologies, Louise. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. 57% our planning is in the early stages, but we'll be ready. Awesome. Because that's where we probably should be at this point. Planning's not starting, but we will start soon for 17%. And then at 11%, planning is advanced. We're ready to go. 11% not planning an Earth Day event this time. And 4% planning to use the documentary Plug and Play. Okay, so that's great. We can close that. And thank you for doing that. And Donna Faye, did you have your hand still up?
Yes, I did. Okay. I wanted to check off too, like our plans are ongoing and we're going to use the documentary. That wasn't a choice. So
right. Okay, well, there you go. Bad poll design. That's awesome. Okay, great. I'm sure others will be doing the same. We clearly are in New Brunswick, that's for sure. Okay. All right. Are any other thoughts, questions, things? Yep, Brian.
Mute.
Could I suggest that the people who say we are not planning an event, make sure that the national office is aware of who they are, so that we can keep track of what's going on?
Okay. By all means. And as your details are settling in and you have, it's very easy to update the map. It's easy enough to update the events page, right? Start with something vague and get more concrete as you know more. But it's good. We really do want to get everything, no matter how vague you are at the start, up. I updated ours just today. Eric did it right away when we had a bit more detail. Tylene and then Nick and Avril, and then maybe we'll go to the next part of the discussion or tie things up. Yeah, Tylene.
Me again, just asking about the third act. I found several things when I search. Nick, would you be so kind as to just put the link or send it out or something, just so I get the right info for my group? Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that. I guess we'll do. There's a message going out. I don't have it handy at the moment. Rolly may have it.
I did put it in the agenda. Let me just go get it. I can find the link for you very quickly. Yeah. Okay. And because I'm looking for the link, who was next? Let me just see here. Nick, go for it, Nick.
So I just, for the people who aren't planning an event, that I understand that, but just to emphasize what we mean by plug and play, because it's not that clear maybe. What we're going to do is prepare a template that you can use even if you want to invite 5 friends or have a small gathering where you can show the video and have a discussion. And it's not hard to organize, because we'll give you what you need. Just a matter of doing an invitation, building a bit of interest. You can use the trailer to do that. So if you aren't planning an event, just want to encourage people to think about whether it's possible to do that.
And take a picture.
Okay. And Avril and Anne.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to draw everyone's attention, if you aren't, watching the chat, that from our group in the South Okanagan, I posted our March and April series of events that are taking place, and including our March 17th poster, where we get to drink beer and encourage seniors to get more obviously involved with the Seniors for Climate organization. It's in there. Thanks.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about a green drinks night. Let's put that on our agenda, Muriel and Anne. Anne.
Yes, just following up on Nick's explanation about the plug and play. I have booked the library on April 17th to get together a group of people, focusing also on the ones that came to the October 1st event that I held there, but hoping to get them to bring people to view the documentary. And I was wondering, are we able to show the plug and play in that kind of a setting? Because I am interested in the idea that it's coming like with questions and explanation.
Who's going to help on the documentary support? Is that Dave? Is Dave here?
I'm sorry, I was trying to find the link to the Sunday that people were asking for, so I didn't quite hear the question. Nancy, I'm sure, could answer it.
I am, pardon me, I am here.
Okay. Oh.
And, just like with everything, if you sign up for a specific date, we can provide you with the link. And it just, if you have internet access at the library, you can stream it that way. If you do not have internet access at the library, you can download it onto a machine and then play it from the machine in the library.
And just a quick follow-up. I did sign up. I signed up on that sign-up sheet. Does that mean that I will be sent the plug and play?
Yeah. So, and do you know if you have internet access at the library? I imagine you do.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So generally, I send out the links a day before your practice session.
Okay. So should I send you my practice session date?
Yes, please. If you'd put it in the spreadsheet.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I'll do that. And does the plug and play, I had the impression it came with a set of questions or some discussion points or something. Did I misunderstand?
A discussion guide. It'll come with a discussion guide, Anne.
Okay, so the link will be sent, the discussion guide will be sent, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Great. So I will add my rehearsal practice date.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm all clear now.
Okay, Nancy just wants to pop in on that, then Nick, and we need to wrap up.
Yeah. Dave, I tried to reach you earlier today, but Pat put her name on the spreadsheet. She has someone who wants to preview the film tomorrow. So can you look at the spreadsheet, or do you want me to send it to her?
I've already sent them the link, Nancy.
Okay, super. Nick? No, you're good. Okay. We're just about ready to let you go. And so just to wrap up on a few things, Dave talked about the need to build numbers. One of the thoughts we had was to encourage you in your own voice, with your own words, to send or contact at least 10 of the people you know and try to get them to subscribe. To get them at least on the subscription list so they can be sharing in the information. And I think it's just really easy to do when we share our enthusiasm for why we're participating in this and the fun that we're having. We still are looking for volunteers. If you have any capacity at all, especially around outreach and organizer support and communications, just let us know. I mentioned in terms of the events page, using that admin for seniors, seniorsforclimate.org email. And just to remember to subscribe. You want to get ensure it doesn't matter if it's in there twice. They'll sort it out on the back end. So if you don't think you've filled in the form to subscribe on the Seniors for Climate webpage, do so if you want to be part of future invitations and get things like the link and the invitation to the April 3rd viewing. We're going to have our next meeting April 8th. We thought a whole month away was not leaving us enough time prior to April 22nd or the week of Earth Week. So we'll see you on April 8th. I'll let Nancy ask her question, and then just to say, if folks need to have a chat or stay on for a couple of minutes, we'll have about 10 minutes available before we close things down at 9:15. 9:15 my time, 8:15 yours if you're in the East, and gosh knows where you are elsewhere. Nancy.
Yeah, just a quick question. Is there a template for Earth Day available on the website that we can use for a poster template for a poster for Earth Day?
So I'm looking at folks just to see if they jump in. Yeah, Rolly, okay. I was going to say, what was the reason?
Yes, we're working on I should say Eric. He can speak to this if he's still here. I guess he is. And I think we're using a template that's our poster from someone from Winnipeg. Eric, why don't you take it over? I wasn't sure if you were still here.
Yeah, Nancy, I lost you for a second there, but if the question is on a poster, we are creating a poster. Someone in Winnipeg did an amazing version, and so we decided to rework that for the national poster. So it will be available in a new toolkit. We'll be having it very soon, and there will be a version of the poster that either anyone can rework themselves, or as per October's event, if someone would like me to rework it a little bit, changing some small elements, I can do that as well.
There wouldn't be anything ready for like tomorrow, though, would there?
If you email me, I could actually probably have it for you tomorrow. It is pretty much ready. We just haven't fully finished the editing. Like, not everyone at Seniors for Climate has had a chance to review it, but it does exist, and I could send you something tomorrow, absolutely.
That would be fabulous, because we wanted to have something for the premiere screening here in Kingston on Sunday.
Oh, I do have a separate poster for this for the premiere
not
for the documentary.
For Earth Day.
Oh, for Earth Day.
We want to build for Earth Day at the screening on Sunday.
Yeah, there's a poster ready for that. If you email me just what details you want added, I can add those to it tomorrow and make that happen right away.
Thank you. You're wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Super. Okay, everyone. Well, that, as they say, is a wrap. For those of you who, thank you back. For those of you who want to stay and chat for a few minutes, you're certainly welcome to do that. Otherwise, we'll say good night, and see you on April 8th. Bye.
Thank you, Louise. Great job.
Thank you.